All right, so we are here in Revit with my project up and running. I have my Enscape panel at the top here. I'm going to show you a few things with this. The first one thing I do want to show you here is this active document section off on the side. And this will show all the different 3D views that you've created in your document. For you at this point, for the most part, it's probably just going to show your primary 3D view listed as 3D. But I want to show you how you can get additional 3D views in here that you can pop into and out of with your Enscape program. So if I go to my floor plan, my primary floor plan here, and I click on View, under 3D View, there is an additional drop-down menu. Under there, I have the option for a camera view. This is a really powerful option I can use for lots of different things. I can use this for rendering within, I keep wanting to say Photoshop, within Revit and within my Enscape program. I can use my camera view here to set up a very specific shot that I want to create. I click on this here. Say I want to create a shot of the back side of my building from the parking lot. I simply click the camera. That sets where the person will be standing, and then I pull out the view. The distance I go decides how far the person's viewpoint will be, and I can set the angle. I click, it will take me to my view then, and this is currently listed as 3D View 3. If I come over here to under my 3D views, I can then right-click and rename, and I can give that a name. Parking lot backside. And that will show up then under my Enscape menu here, parking lot backside, and that can be one of the places I jump to directly within Enscape. Right. Over here then, I have my settings menu. I'm going to walk you through quickly my settings menu. This settings menu can be set before I go into Enscape and also while I'm in Enscape to adjust my settings. When you jump into your Enscape settings, you're immediately placed in the General tab. Starting from the top, Outlines. I typically don't adjust this menu at all, but this will change the way that Enscape looks on your screen. And it's intended to give it sort of an architectural look. Without outlines on, it makes Enscape look realistic. And that's typically what we're going for in Enscape. But with this on, I'm going to show you the difference here. It makes it look more like you're inside an architectural drawing. It's a little bit strange to me, but sometimes people want that look. We're going to go in here and choose white, and then bring outlines up to like, say 30%. Let's pop over to Enscape here so you can see the difference. See, white makes everything white, and then there's outlines. If I turn white off and bring my outlines up, do you see the difference with outlines? It kind of gives everything a kind of a heavier line to it. Polystyrol makes it look like my model was made out of foam. So, you know, you ever see in movies, someone makes a tiny model of a town, and it's on a table, and the architect's going to walk you through what the thing looks like on the town made out of foam. Well, now it's as if you're in that model, walking around inside of it. I don't see many reasons why you'd want to do that. But if you wanted to do that, this is how you'd do that. Now you're walking inside a foam model. And then this is light view. It's kind of like a thermal imaging camera, except that you're seeing where the light hits the model. Again, it's a little strange, and I don't see many reasons for it, but there could be opportunities for you to use this. For the most part, we keep this down, and we make this be none. We can have our typical high quality rendering. Depth of field. Depth of field is a blurring effect at a distance so that we can focus on what's in front of us. Again, I don't typically use this, but it depends on what kind of effect you're going for. Bring this up a little bit here so you can see. It blurs the things that are at a distance. It can be a little disorienting, so I don't typically use it. I mean, at 100% here, it's almost impossible to see anything. A little bit of depth of field, say in the like 15 to 20% range, could be interesting. More useful if you're going to use Enscape to take pictures, render still photos for things, and you want to have a nice effect. If you're going to use Enscape to actually walk around, which we're going to do in a moment, this would be very disorienting, I think. But you can try this and see what kind of effect you get. Field of view, we're going to remember our default here because we're going to come back to this. Widens and narrows your field of view. The default for most things would be 90 degrees, and we don't really want to change that. You can mess around with that if it helps you. Rendering quality is the primary thing you want to mess with on this screen. The default is a high quality render. I have it on ultra because my computer is capable of handling that. You guys can use high quality for most of your stuff on your computers, and if you notice noticeable lag as you're moving around within your image, medium is perfectly fine for day-to-day wandering around inside your building. It really depends on how many textures you have, and how many things you have with images on them, and that kind of thing. You should never need draft quality with the types of laptops you're running. Ultra is what I would always switch to before I do a rendering, because your computer is perfectly capable of handling taking a still image at ultra quality. And you can, as you can see, you can have this window up while you're in Enscape and switch back and forth between the two. So let me switch back down here to medium so you can see the difference. It'll take it a moment to change. So you can see there's a bit of a difference here in my quality in medium. And if I switch to high and ultra, it just smooths things out, makes my textures look a little nicer and cleaner. So play with this. Use the highest setting that you find that your computer is capable of handling and looking good as you move around. You'll find the higher setting you use, the more it will downgrade as you move, and then you'll find when you stop, it'll render real quick, and then you'll move and it'll be pretty looking, and then you'll stop and it'll render real quick. And if you don't like that effect, you can just downgrade this a little bit. High and medium are perfectly acceptable for everyday use, and then bring it up to ultra when you want to take a picture. And I'll show you how to do that in a second here. All right, image, I rarely change these things, but if you want to mess with this, please feel free to. You'll notice each tab has a button at the bottom for reset this tab, so you really can't break anything. If you mess around with it, don't like the effect, hit reset this tab, and then you're fine. Atmosphere. This is where you'll find the skybox. That's this background here. If I change this to clear, you'll see. Reset this tab. White ground. I have town. Forest. Construction site. Urban. I can put different things in the background here. A clear one is just there's sky back there. If you lived in the Midwest, this might be nice. Otherwise, I'm fond of town and forest. Makes me feel like I'm in Hamburg. Otherwise, you can change your cloud amounts and your sky orb and that kind of stuff, your moon size and everything. Input, I typically don't change unless you find that it's difficult to move around. Same with advanced, I typically don't mess around with. If you're having problems, please notice that where you put grass in the ground, it actually renders real grass that sticks up from the ground to make it look like it's real grass. Where you put grass in your Revit model on the ground, you get real grass. Your models don't have ground yet, so you won't get that, but when you do, you'll get grass. If you find that that's causing problems, you can turn the grass rendering off. Capture. This is where you make your changes for how you want to capture renders and videos. I like my 60 FPS videos and my compression quality to be maximum. Panorama resolution to be high. I like my file format for my captures to be JPEGs because I don't feel like changing them. I have a hotkey set up for my, oh, hold on, Shift F11 for taking my picture. So when I'm in here, if I find that I like what I'm seeing and I want to take a screenshot, I go Shift F11, boom, it'll take a render for me. Again, I always switch my general tab to ultra before taking a picture. So you can also do automatic naming. You can pick a default folder where it's going to put your pictures. Go to desktop or something. Let's actually do that right now. Let's go ahead and set up a desktop folder so you guys can see what that looks like. Folder, Enscape renders. There. Folder set up. And some customization. I can create my own loading screen, my own icon, If I was using this in a business and I wanted to do that, I could set that up so the customer didn't see Enscape. They saw my business ID when I was loading it if I wanted to. All right, so let's enjoy walking around in here. When you come in, you'll probably be in fly mode. You don't really want to be in fly mode most of the time. It's a little disorienting, but if you want to switch them back and forth between fly mode and walk mode, you'll see at the top right here what mode you're in. And then you can switch back and forth by clicking on this or by hitting the space bar. In fly mode, you'll notice all your controls down here at the bottom. It gives you every piece of information you need down at the bottom here. In fly mode, your E and Q buttons take you up and down, and the ground doesn't matter. You can clip right through it. In walk mode, it knows what the ground is, and you walk around on the ground with your WASD keys, just like you would in a first-person shooter game. You can walk around, and then you've got Shift and Control to make you go fast and faster. The program knows what a wall is. You notice I can't go through the wall, but it knows what a door is, and I can go through doors. Nice. I can hide and show my map by M. It'll give me a little mini map up here. And then I can hide and show my instructions with H. Don't hit H if you don't remember what the H key is, because it'll go away and you'll forget what that button is and you'll never get them back. H is your button for hiding and showing. Look around with this one here. Let me orbit the whole map with my right mouse button. That can, again, be a little disorienting. Let me walk mode again. Kind of resets us back to the ground. Shift and the right mouse button is very interesting. It changes my time of day. Watch, I'll drag across the map by holding down Shift and right mouse button. Change my time of day. Now it's nighttime, and all my lights will automatically turn on in my building then. If I put lights in the building, I can see my lights. The moon will come across. And I can come across here and say, all right, let's see, what do we look like first thing in the morning? There we go. All right, so we can walk into our building here. And let's say I want to get a nice little shot of the front of my building with the name and like lights on here. I think that's a good shot. I'm going to Shift F11. And it'll render out my image. That was pretty quick, wasn't it? Let's see what that looks like, shall we? Enscape renders. That's pretty good. I've shown you before the difference between this and the Revit renders, right? Have I done that before? No? All right, so let's keep that one up. And I'm going to go back to Revit here. And let's go ahead and do what we'd have to do to create that in Revit. I'd have to create a 3D view, camera, around the same spot. All right, let's call that close enough. I can't really change the time of day and the lighting as easily in Revit. But let's just throw a render up here and see what we get. I go to View, Render. Now I know I can't do a best quality render here within the time of this period. Even my computer would take about half an hour to 40 minutes to do a best quality render within Revit. I'm going to do a high one and just see what we get. I'm going to do a decent resolution to see what I can get out of this. I'm going to do exterior sun and artificial lighting. I'm going to make sure that my lighting is all set up. The artificial lights are all on. And we're going to go ahead and render and see what kind of effect we get out of this. Now by this time, Enscape was already done. Let's be clear. I clicked the button and Enscape was on, off, done, rendered before this even came up and started the render progress. Now keep in mind, my computer is probably the most powerful computer you guys will ever interact with. Your computer would take, even for a high quality render of this sort, your laptops would probably take half an hour to pull this off. And your computers are pretty powerful computers. All right, so our elapsed time now is 1 minute for the render. We're about a third of the way through. Now let's keep in mind, while I'm in Enscape there, I can do what I just did at any time. I can walk around, change my view, change the time of day, have the lights pop on and off, and I can hit that Shift F11 and create a render as often as I want, whenever I want. It'll dump it in that folder, and I'll have as many shots as I want of anything I want within my project as quickly as I feel like I need them. And I can use those for presentation whenever I want. Still rendering here. We're about 2/3 of the way through, minute and 40 seconds. And this is not the highest quality that Revit can do because I don't have the time to have that happen. It's exponential how long these things take. The highest quality render would take about 10 times as long as this render would take, and this takes 10 times as long as the one before it. So if this took, say, looking about 2.5 minutes, 10 times as long, we're talking about half an hour or so, is what I said before. Okay, there we go, and we're done. Let's go ahead and export it as an image. We'll plop it in the same folder so I can open it up easily. Save, close, and let's open it up. So this is the Revit one. Here's the Enscape one. Revit, Enscape. Which one do we prefer? I mean, it's really no contest, right? Do we want to wait 3 minutes, half an hour for a Revit render, or 10 seconds for the Enscape one and get that quality? So just so you guys can see what you're getting by being in here. And now I can just plop this down. Let's go ahead in. Let's walk in, and I can go into my building. Here I am in the building. This is what you guys can do. If you want to do this with your client, you can do this with your client. Walk around and check out the building. And you guys see what I'm saying as I'm walking around? It's downgrading the quality. It's a little grainy. And as I stop, it cleans it up. That's what's happening at ultra quality. If I switch back to a lower quality setting here, like high, save, close, it won't do that quite as much. No, something happened to my ground, and everything. The ground is higher than it should be, and everything kind of sunk. I really don't know why that happened, but there we go. So let's go ahead and do another nifty little thing I can do here. We're walking to fly mode. Yeah, I don't know why everything dropped. At some point, I messed up the ground level in this model, and I never fixed it. So yeah, that's a little weird. Let's see if we can get upstairs here. Let's fly upstairs. Bloop. All right, this looks a little better. All right, we're gonna stand right here, and I'm gonna show you another nifty little trick here. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit brighter outside. There we go. And I'm gonna switch back to Revit here. I'm gonna go render panorama. And it will create a full panoramic 360-degree picture. And if you, I don't know about other programs, but I use Google Photos for lots of things. If you happen to upload this to Google Photos, it'll automatically convert this to a photosphere thing where you can drag it around and look at it in full 360. You can pop this into VR and look at it in VR. This becomes a panorama that you can use for lots of things. So it's automatically rendering all the pictures it needs to make this into a panorama. And now we've got a panoramic picture of this spot. I could put this in Google Photos, have it create it as a 360-degree photosphere, share this with my client, and now they don't even have to be where I am. They can just click through it and look at this panorama. So there we go. 30 seconds later, I have a panorama. If I come back over here now, I can go to Manage Uploads, and here's my most recent panorama. I can go, where's my save? Save panorama to file. Desktop. See, the panoramas, for some reason, it saves to the cloud. You have to download them manually. I go here, save. Let's go ahead and look at it. And here's that panorama file. And again, I'd have to do something with that to get it to be like a photosphere type thing I could fly around in. But there's a full 360-degree, super high-res panorama file I could use for anything. This could go for VR. This could go for all kinds of stuff. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how to make a high-res rendered video file. So let's go ahead and fly out here, walk mode. And this can be a little tricky, but it can be really nice if you spend the time to do it right. You want to send a video to your client of what your building looks like. You'll notice down here, there's a button for video editor. Right here, K. I switch to K, and all my stuff here changes. I have a timeline. Shaky camera is like an effect that it applies to the video, so it's like you're walking around with a camcorder, and so it kind of does this like, you can turn that on if you want to or not. It's up to you. I don't because I think it's silly, but if you like it, do it. Easing in and out means that the video starts slow and then it kind of ramps up to the speed and then slows down the same way. Whereas without that, it starts and stops at full speed. So you can kind of play around with that. You notice here there's buttons to add keyframe. Then it also has a K button here. So K will add keyframe. You can just use that while you're moving around. So what is a keyframe? A keyframe is a moment in time and space where you are that the camera will go to. And then the computer will figure out what happens in between those moments. Now you have to keep in mind as you're doing this that the computer doesn't know what's between those keys. And it will fly through walls, it'll fly through bookshelves, it'll fly through floors, or whatever. You have to make your keyframes appropriate for it to be able to know where it needs to go. Let's go ahead and create a few keyframes and I'll show you what that looks like. Add a keyframe. Boom. It also knows like what your rotation is. So keyframe. Add a keyframe. Let's come in here. Add a keyframe. You see that little line behind me? The little cameras on it? That's my video path so far. And my keyframes on it. Let's come in here. Wait a minute. Hold on. It doesn't recognize this. This is like a little like spinny door. It doesn't recognize that as a door. So I have to kind of fly through it. And then we'll walk again. And then we'll do a keyframe. We'll come over here. Keyframe. Keyframe. Yep, my water fountain's on the floor. Keyframe. 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 And keyframe. All right. I believe if I hit preview, it'll walk me through it. So let's see. It's a little fiddly, a little clunky sometimes, but it gets the basic idea across of what you're doing. The more keyframes you add, the smoother it'll be, and the more it'll be what you're trying to accomplish. The less keyframes you do, the more it'll be kind of clunky. Yep, bang my head off the door frame there. Right, so the less keyframes you do, the more it has to kind of speed up to go between them. So the more keyframes you do, the better off you are. So there's my video. All right, so I'm going to leave. minimize this, come back to Revit, and render video. It knows what the current path is. It'll dump it in here as an MP4 file, save. It can create the video render in the amount of time that Revit makes a picture render. And then we're done. So that's pretty much all I really wanted to show you of Enscape. Do you have any questions of what it looks like and how to use it? You have the option at this point to take your laptop to your client and do that manual hands-on walkthrough. You can just drive through like it's an FPS, but it's not, you know, and take them through it. You can create a video and render the video and then send them an email with a video link and say, here, check out your building. What do you think? You can take a whole bunch of pictures. But at this point, I want you to do something high quality in Enscape to show to your client what your building looks like at this stage. And ideally, that will show them the scale of things, the sizing, what you can fit in some of the rooms, because they're probably not really fully grasping the size of one of these houses. And I think that the idea here is, here's what your house looks like with this floor plan that we've decided on. What do you think? Are there changes that you feel need to be made? That's your next step. Do a video, do a walkthrough, take pictures, whatever you feel you need to do with your client or you can do with your client to help them understand where we're at. And then we're going to move on from there. Questions about how that's going to work and what that looks like or how to use Enscape to do that. All right. Thank you, folks, for your patience. I appreciate it.